I think this is going to be a very interesting kind of conversation. We have two special guests. And I think the reason I'm excited to hear, we were talking before the tape started rolling, just about personal experiences, and maybe some of that will be shared while we're talking live. But what me and Mo and Diana wanted to have our guests on for tonight is there's a couple of things that we see as problematic with kids growing up. Physical fitness, mental toughness or self-confidence, pick your term, but like confidence. So physical fitness, mental fitness, maybe that's what I'll say. Physical fitness, mental fitness, teamwork, working well with others, and joy. And so when I look at kids, we have like, from a physical fitness standpoint, we're less physically fit, all of us, but I'm talking about kids now, than we've ever been. Mental, we have more mental problems. Again, I'm a pediatrician, but in kids and adults, we have higher mental health issues than we've ever had before and it starts, I think a lot of the anxiety, depression that we see in adults starts with a lack of confidence in kids. That's my theory. I see it all the time. And joy. There's a lot of kids who are just sitting behind a screen, getting more anxious and more depressed about what they're seeing and what they're not doing. They're seeing these like unrealistic images of whatever, and they're not going out there and playing and making connections with people and so on. And now finally in healthcare, we're realizing that as important as physical fitness, as important as mental fitness, as important as any medicine you might take, is social connection. I don't know. I always felt that way. Like it was always clear to me that if I spent a lot of time alone when I was studying in med school, or if I'm alone in the hospital at night, I'm not like skipping. I'm pretty grumpy. And then when I see my boy or I see my girlfriend or I see my dog, I get happier. Even if we didn't do anything yet, I just see them. So how can we not know that these, so I'm like, and then this is a family like we take care of, and they're very, very kind people. And then we got to know what they do, and they actually have this amazing operation. And it's one of the few things that actually covers all those aspects. So we've had therapists on for mental health. Mm-hmm. We've had a couple of like gym guys, like physical fitness guys for the physical fitness. And I think there's no perpendicularity like what these two lovely ladies do that covers all of it. That covers the physical fitness, that covers the connectivity, the social connectivity. And then as a result, but I don't want to speak for them, the output is confidence, self-esteem. I see folks that come in that are we take care of the kids, and they do dance at their studios, and they're confident. Like they've accomplished something, yeah. They're active, and they have a sense of self-worth and team and support. And it's a beautiful thing. And I don't know if I should be ashamed, but like when I was their age, like when I was 14 or 13 or 10 or 6 or whatever, there wasn't formal dance. Like dance was like what you did at like the Sweet 16. Now dance is a huge thing. And what they're doing is like at the forefront of it. And I'll let you talk about it. But now it's like stuff you could do at the college level. Mm-hmm. It's competitive. And so there's a whole world. And I think like a lot of the viewers and listeners want to hear about that. But the reason I was interested is because at a foundational level, I think it actually preempts so many of the issues we see in our kids today that actually then matriculate into adults. So if each of you could maybe, if it's cool, just introduce yourselves and then your journey, like where you're from. We always talk about like, the background and how you got to where you are, each of you, and then you could talk about what it is you guys do together now.
Cool. Okay, my name is Ashley Frato. I'm one of the co-owners of the Source Dance Lab located in Palisades Park and Newly Cresskill, New Jersey. I started dancing when I was about 8. To be honest, I was actually terrified to get on stage, which is so funny now if you know me. I'm the complete opposite, but I sat in my sister's recital and I was actually so jealous that she got to go on stage and be in costume. And I was just like sitting there in the audience. So needless to say, my mom signed me up, and it was super recreational because I really played sports my whole life. My dad was always my coach. My grandpa was always my coach. Very, very competitive family. Like when I say we can't even play bocce or Monopoly together, like it always turns into a fight because of like who cheated or whatever. As I got older, into high school, all varsity sports. So cheerleading varsity, basketball varsity, softball varsity, and I still always dance, but recreational. I didn't do it on the competitive level. Honestly, I didn't know that you could at the time. My studio wasn't exposing us to that, but I was really happy. I was just happy dancing and being able to do it with sports. Went to college, went swimming in Patterson, and I decided I didn't want to play sports anymore. I tried out for the cheerleading cheerleading team, but I still continued to dance at like 18, 19 years old at this like recreational level, still doing recitals, which if you know dance, like doing a recital at 19, you kind of get like laughed at because you're supposed to move on. But I just like didn't want to get rid of whatever passion I was feeling. I would say about my junior year, a studio opens around the block from my parents' house. I reach out to it and it winds up being Courtney's first studio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I walk in. I knew her a year before that. She taught at my studio that I was still taking 1 or 2 classes at, but I didn't know she was opening up her own studio. I walk in, I take a Zumba class. I join classes with 13-year-olds because, again, who's dancing at 19 in a recreational studio. And the next year, she offered me a position to be her assistant, and then we started a competition team together. We won our first nationals together, and then the rest was history. Well, not really. She closed that location, and then we opened up the Source Dance Lab, and the rest was history.
When did you open up the first one?
So Courtney opens up. It was called The Vibe in
2011.
Yeah, 2011.
We opened up SDL in 2015.
Okay.
So our journey really started there, and then she broke away from the business. It was the business partners split, and we looked at each other and we said, why don't we just do this together? Why are you my assistant? I was working for other dance studios as well too, and then we opened up the Source Dance Lab. And with the Source, what was cool was we took my world of sports and cheerleading and that gymnastics. We took Court's, which she'll get into, world of dance, and we fused it together to create an athletic, artistic community and vibe around dance. Instead of dance being this jazz hands, super girly, or dance moms, which that's hit or miss on this. So, but we never wanted, and I would always say this, like our dads would leave our dance recitals, like until we were on stage. I never wanted our studio to feel like that. I wanted dads to be sitting there and being on the edge of their seat. And if you talk to any of our dads now, they will tell you like, no, they put on like the best shows, the best routines. And I take pride when it comes from a dad, because my dad was like, the Yankee game's on. Can I go to the car? But our goal was to create it more athletic. Why can't dancers be athletes? Why can't we train them mentally, physically, emotionally, just like I did in sports? But instead of shooting a basketball, we're just dancing.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So my name is Courtney Fredo, which I guess on another episode we could get into the same last names. But I have been, I've been dancing since I was 2, competing since I was 6. So I competed from 6 to 18. Dance is really the only thing that I ever knew. I went to Montclair State University 18. I was a dance major at first, and then I switched my major to education, realizing that you did not per se need a degree in dance. And luckily from doing that, I was able to get K through 5 and bachelor's of the arts degree, but I was able to dance professionally from 18 to 24 because I didn't have the stress of being a part of the dance department there. So I was signed to an agent by the time I was like 19. I got to do some really fun things in my career until I kind of hit this crossroad.
I think you should say who you danced for on this podcast.
J-Lo?
No,
I wish.
I mean,
I would do it for free
for J-Lo. But I was able to tour with Kelly Rowland, which which was fun. I did some projects with like MTV, Macy's commercials. I got to be in a Ja Rule music video.
Oh, wow.
So
Which video?
It was with a Filipino artist. His name is Christian Alexander.
Okay.
They were actually ironically casting for a cultured dancer, and they made me look very, very Pacific Islander / Asian to book the role.
Okay, nice.
But so I mean, as great as that was, and I'm so grateful for the experiences that I got from it, it just wasn't fueling me enough. And then I got to see a whole nother side of that industry that I just did not love. I had the opportunity to move to Los Angeles when I was 23, 24, and my life would have probably been so different. I wouldn't have met Ashley. I wouldn't have had Mila. Like, there's so many things that would have changed. But at 23, I was auditioning, and I didn't love it anymore. And that fire that other dancers, I was on an audition for the VMAs for Beyonce the year that she did the Single Ladies. And I remember getting cut and I was like, it's fine. I just, I wasn't the right look that they were looking for. And I left the audition and I taught the choreography to another dancer who ended up booking the job.
Wow.
And in my heart, I was like, I wasn't even jealous. I wasn't even mad. I was so happy that I gave her that opportunity.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was like, I was teaching dance from the time I was 15 up until this point. I was like, I think this is what I want to do. So I started teaching at Ashley's studio with the intentions of actually buying the business. And then the owner, in complete transparency, she came back with a ridiculous deal and it wasn't for us. And then I found my first studio about a week after that. And I opened up the Vibe in 2011, had recreational classes, started competing and kind of like introduced my world to them. And then that's when we met and kind of started this journey together. I broke away from the business in 2015, which was a lot, and but it was for the best benefit. And then from 2015 on, literally the rest is history. And meeting her and fusing our worlds together, I really think we shifted the culture of what dance studios should be.
Yeah.
I came from the traditional, like, hip hop was not a thing. I came from the traditional, like, you would have to get tested to be in ballet. It was very strict. My ballet teachers, we had sticks, and if you were not in the right position, that stick would go down by that pinky toe and you would squeeze that you would hope they wouldn't hit you.
Wow.
So I never wanted to have that fear. But also I knew that dance was the only place that I felt like I could be myself. So opposite of Ashley, I'm actually the more quieter person in the relationship. Okay. But on stage, I would light up the stage. But if you asked me to stand in front of the class and give a speech, I would cry and sweat. So very opposite experiences. And then I think just fusing it together, we've created something that now giving the goals of dancers to go to college, etc., it will really help them.
Yeah. We recently, talking about that, just opened up a new company. So we have the Source Dance Lab. We own that. And we just opened up a new company. It's called D1 University. We launched a small mini event in April. And basically we brought the top colleges. Now you have D3, D2, D1, D1A. And this goes back to kind of like the journey of the competitive dance and the athletic side of it. And a lot of our kids, they didn't want to go to LA. They didn't want to do the agency thing. And we said to them, we looked at each other like, what are we doing? Like, what are we prepping them for? Like, I don't want to just do this to do this. Like, I want to do this and help them have a goal at the end.
We had students who
toured with Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber was on Nickelodeon
the
shows.
Gap. Brooklyn Nets kids, Nick City kids.
And we looked at each other and we're like, okay, that's great. And it's a great for the resume, but what are they doing? And then also knowing the knowledge of what the dance industry and the music industry when you turn 18 really is.
And are we really doing them a service? Yes, if they want to go that route, we can help you, but why don't we open up another door? And Courtney was like, why don't we start looking into college dance? And I was like, how are we going to get these kids to go to college dance? We're just this little studio in Bergen County. And she's like, well, we're going to find a way. And that journey started in 2017. Fast forward to this April 2024, we reach out to these colleges and we say, we're going to start a convention where we're going to bring the best colleges to New Jersey and get these kids recruited. So we brought the University of Las Vegas, the University of Memphis, Hofstra University, Rutgers University, and the University of Delaware. And 3 kids got recruited from that event. Wow. 2 to the University of Las Vegas and 1 to the University of Memphis. And this summer we're having, it's called the convention, and now we have 8 colleges on board. And those 5 we named, including Texas Tech, St. John's University, St. Joseph's University, and the University of Central Florida. So all D1, D1A. Yeah. But it's really about, furthering the kids dance, but their education. And that's what our kids said. They're like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. And I was like, so they're just going to give up dance?
This huge passion. And also it's been a bulk of their life and their community.
And financials.
16 years. And then you're just going to give it up.
We said, how do we get them to college and continue them to dance? they make the dance team.
Yeah.
They have a community once they go to college, right? You know, everyone knows you go to college and you're like, okay, I have no friends now. They automatically have friends. They're on a sport, which keeps you structured, disciplined, emotionally and mentally stable, especially in this day and age. And then they get their degree in whatever they want. They don't have to be a dancer. But now, because they were on the University of Las Vegas, their networking abilities, whether they go walk in for a job at, Wall Street, that person might have been like, oh, I was an alumni from the University of Las Vegas, or I was on the dance team, and there's another connection. So that's our whole method behind our business is furthering, not just it's a baby ballerina at 2, yes, but what are we doing at 18 when they graduate, and how do we get them to keep dancing while getting an education?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have before, because I see you like holding the phone.
Yeah.
But can I ask a bunch of questions
ahead.
first? Okay. So listening to this, I'm very fascinated. I realized like halfway through doing this with Mo, I think he and I realized like the best conversations we had. Obviously, like, we get some folks that are like, they do crazy stuff and stuff like that, and it's always interesting. But what I've learned, and Mo, I think you agree with me, like we figured this out together. The people who are doing the coolest stuff, and we have the coolest conversations, but like they're just the coolest people, are the ones that end up doing something professionally that their personal journey led them to. And I don't want to like shit on like the guy who's an accountant who hates his job and can't wait to like the weekend basketball games or can't wait. I don't want to take anything away from them because that's fine, but I'm sure that having a conversation with him is not going to be scintillating about accounting, right? There's a woman who is an accountant who was obsessed with numbers all her life. Numbers are like rainbows to her. Her perspective will be cool about accounting.
Yeah.
Of course,
And so
because
what I
there's
learned is
passion.
exactly. And so like when I hear folks like you guys talking about it, where it's not even a job, right? It's like if like you jump out of bed wanting to do it, right? And you look forward to it, and it creates a lot of like questions, and it inspires me, and I know it inspires a lot of the people that watch and listen because I see them in the locations and I see them and I get texts from them and they're like, Z, that was such an awesome conversation. My 16-year-old daughter who's like loves dance, but she thinks she's getting too old for it. Now she's inspired by it. She knows whatever. So I have a bunch of questions.
Sure.
Okay. And they're going to span different themes.
That's okay.
Right.
Some of them are going to be more personal. Some are going to be more professional. Some are going to be about your journey, and then I think a super interesting thing is going to be the business aspect of what you two did, and I'll get to that. But I have some just basic questions. What's, just for people who are curious, what's like let's say a mom or a dad like is into dance and their kid is into dance and they have like a 2-year-old toddler who every time the music comes, they're just into it. What's the youngest someone can kind of enroll with you guys?
2 years old. So,
Okay.
I mean, typically our website says 2.5, but if you have a 2-year-old come in, which we did this year, and her sister is 10 and she has been competitively dancing with us for 3 years. So this little 2-year-old has just been engulfed in the culture of traveling and watching her older sister dance. So when we get a little 2-year-old that we have their older brother or their sister, or they have someone in the family that they've been watching, we know that 2-year-old retention and their brain is on a different wavelength than someone who has no environmental experience with it. So 2.5 standard, but 2 years old will start to I guess assess them is the best word.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty young. Boys can come in just as easily as girls. Not a problem.
It deters because we're female. Sometimes it gets deterred because they look at us like it's gonna be girly. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of dads frown upon it because they think their son's gonna turn gay. We don't make the boys, especially the ones that are competing with us, they don't have to take ballet. They don't have to take contemporary. If they just want to do the hip hop because that's what makes the family feel comfortable, like we make that accommodation for the boys.
So we have hip hop tots and tumble tots start at age 3. It goes 3 to 6, and then at 6 years old you could take like an hour tumbling class or an hour hip hop class. That's usually where the boys will fall into. And then what starts to happen is from there, then they'll start to say like, hey, can I take the contemporary class? And then if they start competing with us, they start to get exposed to all different styles, and then it kind of shifts. But now I think because of social media and just TV shows like America's Got Talent, there's the opportunity for male dancers.
Yeah.
It's not weird anymore.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
The
sure.
one boy that was recruited, I didn't even say he was a boy. He was a boy. He danced his whole life. Not with us. He switched over to us this year
for his senior year.
But he took every class, and I was like, "You don't have to take, the ballet." He's like, "No, is it going to better my hip hop?" I said, "Well, yeah, you're going to get more flexible. You're going to be more versatile. You're going to have more elasticity, more dynamics." And he's like, "All right, do I have to wear a leotard?" I said,
like,
"Absolutely
"No,
not." He's like,
please
"Then
don't,
I'm in."
Actually.
Right.
And then fun fact, he actually ended up getting a scholarship for lacrosse. He played lacrosse as well.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
And he switched to us his senior year, which is huge.
But still played lacrosse.
Still played lacrosse, but like that's huge,
Yeah,
and then honor for us because we were like, "You've been dancing since you were 6. Like, are you sure you want to come here?"
Yeah.
And he traveled like 45 minutes to get to us.
Yeah, he was from upstate New York.
And
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he makes the commitment. He's like, "Yes, like this is what I want." I was like, "Okay." He was gonna go to DeSales, I think, right?
DeSales D3 on a lacrosse scholarship
and he ended up giving that up
because he got offered
he
D1.
got offered D1 on
Wow.
University of
So
Las
you
Vegas.
affected his life in a major way.
His whole life.
His dad literally will say it, and he's like, "You switched his whole entire thought process. Like everything has now changed."
Yeah.
So it's cool, you
But,
know. But
yeah.
yeah, so boys, they do dance.
That's good to know. And then a couple of more, and then I'll shift themes. So tell me, like, my boys, I have 2 boys, they're like basketball junkies. That's all they do. Like when I take you upstairs, my house is like Muhammad says the soundtrack is dogs barking and balls bouncing.
Nice.
That's
Sounds like
all
our
it is.
house.
That's
We're
all
not
it
the
is.
balls, just dancing.
Yeah. So like kind of the intensity that you're talking about in that community, my wife has to deal with that. Like she's trapped. Like over the weekend, I was sending Mo videos. I was in Brooklyn. I was in Brooklyn at night for a basketball tournament for one of my kids. They were in Florida 2 weeks ago. Like, the wife deals with all that, but it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Like, and so one thing I've observed, and Mo's been to a bunch of games with me for the boys. I love basketball, and I think I'm a pretty competitive guy, but I'm always in awe, not in a good way, when I'm in the stands. Not some games. Every game, and I'm talking for years. Every game. I'm not exaggerating. Every single game, there's like an incident or outburst. I'm like, I'll see like a 40-year-old dude, and I'm like, dude, your kid's not gonna go play at Duke and play for the Knicks, and even if he was, and like, what's funny, in watching my kids play ball, honestly, for 7 years now, 8 years they've been in leagues. I think once in 8 years, and these kids play 2 games a week. I think once there was like a scuffle on the court with the kids. It's not the kid. The kids are much better than the parents.
We always say that.
But the parents, like every other game, someone's getting thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
They rush the referee. I'm like, dude, what? And I don't know. Maybe I'm the one who's like born in the wrong time, wrong place. All I ever see when that happens is when I was a kid. I used to play ball when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
If I looked at my coach, if I looked at, and it's a whole different paradigm shift in just 20 years. Is it similar with you guys? And can you talk a little bit about how, because we've been talking about the kids and how much of an impact you guys have on the kids in such an incredible way. But, the parents are the parents, right? And you guys are parents, and you know that. And your child is young, right? But, I mean, you're seeing that now. You have a huge impact as the parents. And can you talk a little bit about what your perspective is? Because it's a unique one. You see all these parents, just like a pediatrician, right?
Yep.
And give your kind of 2 cents on that.
So we always say, oh, it's okay, buddy. We always say it's not the kids, it's the parents that ruin it. And in any sport, I played basketball too, and that's why I was laughing. I can't tell you how many times parents got thrown out. Some of them, my mom never got thrown out, but she was close to it. And this competitive nature comes out of you. And I wasn't going to college for basketball. I was good. I wasn't great, So I think we both understand that because we are competitive people. But it's always the parents that ruin it for the kids. And why do they ruin it? It's because, one, they're either trying to live vicariously through their kids.
That's what I see.
That's the number one. That's probably the highest percentage. And my advice to parents listening to this, I know it's really hard, but don't. Let your kids make the mistake. Let your kids fail. Let someone tell your kid that, like, no, you're not doing that right. Let me help you. So that's the number one thing, vicariously living through them. And I think the second thing we see a lot is you're not allowed to tell their kid they made a mistake. And that's probably the hardest thing for us because we're not a public school where it's free. They invest in us. They pay us for us to teach them how to dance and to educate them how to dance. So when we try to do our job and someone tries to fight against
Does
us,
that happen a lot?
Oh, it happens every day.
Every day.
I just can't. All I ever tell my, Coach Mac, all I ever tell my kids' coaches is just beat them down harder.
So your kids probably, though, maybe they won't. I haven't seen them in basketball. No matter what they do in life, they'll be successful because you have those
grit.
talks with that coach. So the people that come to us and they have that conversation with us, they're the kids that soar the furthest. Even if the parent at the time you might not agree all the time, but hey, I'm not the coach here. Just like if I walked into your office and I'm like, well, you should be giving her the shot. Like what do I know about giving a shot? I'm not a doctor.
Right.
So there's a time you have to let up and let it ride. But that also comes down to you choosing and trusting the right place and the right people. Sure. So that way you can trust the process and the outcome can be, successful.
I have two things to say with, at least for our genre of job. Dance Moms, the TV show, has definitely not helped any of that. And it's funny.
Do you know that show?
No, I don't.
Oh
You ever heard of it?
You never heard of Abby Lee Miller?
You know me.
You never heard of Dance Moms?
Oh, please
Are you
pull that
surprised
picture up.
I don't know Dance Moms.
Well, I mean, like,
It's like a
I thought maybe Maryam would
multi-million-dollar
have
now.
watched
She
it,
had
maybe.
She
8
might know it.
She had 8
Yeah.
seasons.
I know NBA on TNT and Succession.
Oh, someone has to pull this up for him.
By the way, I'm gonna watch it
Oh.
tonight now.
Now you're
Oh,
gonna
No,
God.
you're not.
Go
It's
through
like the
all these-
Housewives, but
It's basically like
Is it what it
Housewives.
sounds like?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
These psycho. Okay.
So
I think
it's not all bad.
no, and a lot of
but
it is scripted.
100% because it's
like travel dance
mainstream
moms?
media.
No, it was rough.
Well, that looks like the Real Housewives.
So it's like it's very
But it's for
similar.
kids. So
the
but
funny,
I want to just say something just in case Abby Lee Miller comments under this, which if she does, we're so honored that if you do. There's not a lot that we disagree with her on. The way that she spoke and her approach is a little rough, but that might be her tactic. But the things that she's saying isn't wrong. She's wildly gifted and wildly talented. But the show highlights, it's not actually the kids.
it highlights the poor behavior from
Of the
parents.
moms.
Okay.
So what has happened now, fast forward to 2024, it looks okay.
It looks like
that
it's
behavior
cool.
It's not okay.
No.
So we've actually gone to competitions and we've had parents isolated situations, but yelling at judges, and we'll look at each other and be like, oh my God, they're in lime green from head to toe. Those are our studio colors. You can't hide. When that happens, we run a very tight ship as best as we can.
Yeah,
So
but we can't control
we
everything.
can't control everything. So it's addressed and there's warnings and then that's it. For us, it's environment is everything. So we always say it's a triangle. If it's us, the child, and the parent. And if you can align all of that,
Your kid's going to be
so successful. And I'm
successful.
not even talking about dance.
No, as a human.
If they continue to dance through college, amazing. If they continue to make it a career, God bless. Amazing. But if not, it's okay. But the values and the work ethic and the grit that you're going to get out of that trifecta is what's going to make you soar.
But if one
But if
breaks,
one breaks,
I'm going to tell you, they usually leave, or the kid is not successful, or they find themselves kicked out because they're not following the community guidelines that we set in place.
and then I think it took us a very long time as business owners to accept this, because when you're young and you want to hold on to every single client,
Yep.
and then you kind of realize that they're gonna have this same problem
At Target.
Right.
at dance studio number 3, number 4, number
Outback.
5. It's gonna continue, and for us, I would rather keep that energy out the door so we
100%.
could do our job effectively. But I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. It happens on a daily basis, and now with email, forget about it. It's it's constant, but the behavior. It doesn't help their child either. It actually, for me,
It hurts
so
them.
embarrassed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think it's any sport. I think you're going to see it anywhere.
100%.
I'm listening while you're describing it. It's like that. It's like what I see, and I'm always like. And by the way, take it out of competitive sport. Take it out of dance and basketball. Take it to the classroom. Like we were talking, you guys have backgrounds in education, and I told you my mom was a teacher, and we teach, by the way. Like now it's not, my situation's different. I'm teaching adults, so it's different. Like their parents aren't on the scene. They're residents and like nursing students and medical students. That's different. But like I take care of a lot of teachers' kids and families, and my brother takes care of a lot of teachers, and then I go to my kids' teacher meetings, like sometimes, and like so, and you know, I have friends that are teachers or whatever, and the parents get hyper involved and so on, and I think like the involvement and sense of curiosity and support is a good involvement. You also don't want negligent parents, but I like, you know, you were kind. You're like, you know, you talk to them, you say, I know it's hard. I'm like, dude, what's your calculus? Like, what do you want your kid to get out of this? You want them to develop, to me, the first thing is like to have a sense of self-worth and confidence and self-esteem, because growing up and being a kid, you don't have that. It's like giving them, but when they're suddenly pretty good, they learned a dance move that they struggled with for 3 months, or they hit some choreographic stuff, or they worked on their jump shot and now it's finally falling. That gives them such a sense of self-worth. That's number one. Number two, community, right? Like having a sense of belonging. Like, hey, this is my dance community, this is my basketball community, this is my whatever community. And then there's all these secondary derivative things like coachability or teacher. I don't know that there's a more important skill that your kid can have as they grow up than coachability, or teachability. And because unless you think your kid's a genius who knows more than everybody, then what you want is you want your kid to grow, have a growth mindset, to always improve. By definition, that means being able to listen to others, take it in, and improve yourself. And if as a parent, I keep shoving my kid out of the way and saying, you're wrong, teacher, coach, instructor, all I'm teaching my kid is that it's the opposite of growth mindset.
Yeah, you're disabling them.
You're
Correct.
going to keep them this
That's
big.
Correct. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that. And that's why I think you're right. I think I actually don't think like when a parent does that, they might say something like, "Oh, I'm doing it for this."
You're
think
not.
it's thoughtless.
You're doing it for yourself.
Correct. I think it's vicarious
So when
and all that. Yeah.
that kid gets that jump shot, right, that you talked about, they finally hit their threes, right, and now it's consistent. In that parent's head, and I'm just using basketball because I know that you can relate a little bit to it. They're like, "Oh my God, I succeeded as a parent." They're not saying like, wow, I helped my kid get here. What's the next goal that we can work on together and make this a relationship, a rapport with the parent and the child. You know, I had that rapport with my dad and my grandpa, right? They'd go outside with me. We'd throw around the ball at the beach. It was our thing, you know, to get better. What's that next goal? It was never that like, my dad did it. He's now successful because I made the jump shot. And that's where the ego is. It comes from the parent at the end of the day because they have no self-worth and the insecurity. You know, they find pride because maybe as a kid or as an adult or whatever, they hit this, whatever in their growth, they never got what they needed. Whether it was fulfillment, whether it was a job that they really loved or following their heart, but they never got that recognition that they probably craved.
Yeah, and I guess the take home, like across all this, it's dance, it's sports, it's school, it's whatever, is as parents, it's like, it's so critical in parenting to not make it about you.
Yeah.
And we do that all the time. We project, right? And by the way, I do it all the time. I'm not like, I make mistakes all the time. The other day, so I'll tell you something. So I'm pretending like I'm a great basketball dad. I'll tell you a story. We have a big game on Sundays. In the summer, we have like literally 30, 40 guys that come and play ball at my brother's house. And then we do a barbecue.
Wait, you guys like adults? Oh, that's
You
awesome.
can come through if you want.
You know I'll come.
Come through. Yeah, it's house. I mean,
Sunday basketball.
Really?
Sometimes it's 30, 40 guys with like 3 teams waiting.
Yeah.
Right?
Stop.
So,
Wow.
Yeah, it's house every Sunday during the summer. It's fun. And then we play from like 1 to 3 or 4. And then he always barbecues. And then we drink and eat and then like hang out till
That's
like
cool.
the nighttime. And it's awesome, right? Like last week Mo was on the grill, so I could play ball. So we play, and then my sons, there's not many kids, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a like adult game. But my sons are like they're just at that age. So they're playing. And then one of my kids, and he's a kid. So he's playing with like from 22-year-old men to like 43-year-old men, right?
Maybe even pushing a little 50.
Yeah, a couple of years
I mean, you're the oldest, I think.
I'm the oldest, yeah, but I'm only 44.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so he like some guy like like knocked him over, right? Like whatever.
Oh, this was Jaden, right?
Yeah.
I saw it.
Knocked him, and he like scraped himself like in 3 different places, bleeding, whatever. And he like got upset, and he was like on the ground taking his time to get up, and like he didn't like get up quickly and like whatever. And I was like, get up, like come on, get up, blah blah blah. And I don't want to say caught myself. I saw myself getting like. Now I'll tell you, in honesty, I didn't do it out of disappointment. I did it because I want him to be resilient and tough and be able to bounce back. But I caught how I was saying it in a way that probably wasn't the most constructive way, right? And so like then like I waited till the next game and I pulled him aside and I'm like, hey, I just want you to like understand if you fall, you got to get up. And like I was proud of how you bounced back. And so there's an emotional element, and you're right and you're kind when you're like, well, I know it's difficult, but I think as a parent, fine, you're gonna screw up. But you then have a moment where you're out of the emotion, you're not captive to the emotion, and you have to take stock and ask it because you're influencing other human beings.
Yeah.
like your daughter, my son, they're gonna like we're influencing society in a major way with how we influence them. And look, I'm a big believer that like you have to be the teachers influence them, and then you guys. I influence the kids because I they see me and stuff like that. But it starts and ends with the parents too, and so. You have to have that responsibility, and I think parenting is tricky. It's one of you go get a gun. You have to like do a test. You get a license. You have to drive it.
Parents, you don't have to.
Pop out a kid, So I get it. There's no playbook, but I think the advice and the conversation that we're having is critical, right?
100%.
I think it's just a matter of pausing and taking stock. I think parents just don't do that enough.
Yeah,
I think the recap though that you.
I was just gonna say that.
Is you pushing your son in that moment. You're not pushing. I mean, I know there was no coach on site, but you're not screaming at the coach, right? That's a different situation. Yeah. You pushing your son in that moment and then recapping after and be like, hey, just FYI, you did great. I just want to continue to push you because I know that you're more capable than what you see
and
right
what
now.
I was going to say is the bounce back though, what you're saying is that like as an adult, you can have that moment and catch it faster than a 12-year-old's kid. So your bounce back of like, I don't like the way that sounded. Let me go re-explain this. So that way emotionally he understands where I was coming from and I can kind of rephrase what I said. And I think adults sometimes they say something and they're like, oh, I'm just going to ignore it or I'm going to buy them a gift tomorrow and mask it instead of just communicating,
And by the way, that's a great point. You know why? Non-deliberately, if like 5-6 years ago, I remember once I don't know if I yelled at my son. I don't know what I did. Maybe I was like, oh no, I think I was like getting in an argument with his mother. I got in an argument with his mother and like raised my voice, whatever. And then like the next day, they were young, maybe 3 or 4. And Dean, the oldest, was like, Dad, are you, he said, mind you, the fight between me and Miriam was like 60, like it was nothing.
Yeah.
But it was something. Yeah. And my kid was like, are you and Mom going to stay together? And I was like, holy shit. I was like, what? And it hit me that how the difference, like, when you look at the moon, it's this big, but it's really in a
the
kid's
span of time for a kid. Yeah.
And what he saw and the impact, the unintentional impact. And so I learned that how we influence our kids 10 times more than we think.
Yeah.
But the second thing is it forced me in that moment to say, Dean, I shouldn't have spoken that way to your mom, or to anybody. I shouldn't, if what I'm saying is right, I shouldn't have to raise my voice to make the point. I shouldn't have to whatever. And the way he responded to that taught me that actually when you make a mistake as a parent and then you acknowledge it and you explain it, that's one of the biggest lessons you could teach your kids.
Yes.
Is how to own and evolve from things. And rather than be like, oh, well, I don't want to admit a mistake to my kid because that'll undermine my authority as a parent. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
That's some of the best lessons you could teach the kid. And it struck me. And then now when I screw up, which is not it's quite a bit, I lead into it. I'm like, okay, so let me show you why I screwed up and blah, 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 blah. So that's, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the business aspect because I actually think for a lot of people, that might be like just the most interesting. Like you talked about you started and then you taught and then you did your own studio and you like flew by that. There's gajillion people who end up doing something they don't want to do because they were afraid to pursue what they love, right? And they'll convince themselves there's no economic security here, there's no whatever,
And everybody else will too.
yeah, or I went to school and got this degree. Like, there's a million reasons.
Yeah.
And you guys just fly by the courage that it takes to do that. Could you just, like, I don't know if you could remember the feeling, or if you could explain it, because it's difficult, but like, for lack of a better term, the balls to have this, like, the conviction to say, one, this is what I love, and so I'm going to try to make something of it. And then two, when you left and together you started your own studio, that's like not an easy thing to do. Right?
No.
Can you talk a little bit about the mindset there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think with my journey with the first studio, so I was teaching in Saraville in like Central Jersey during this time, and I will never, a very big lesson for me is you never forget where you come from. So for me, I would never open up next to my director that I was teaching for. It's just bad karma, bad juju. So I was like, let me start to look elsewhere. So I drove 45 minutes up. I got this opportunity that was, Ashley's old dance studio that didn't end up working out. But I remember in that moment being like, I can do this. I love this so much. But I will say I had a very supportive family to kind of like help me also get to that point. But was it scary? Yes. And I told myself this, and then I told it to Ashley years later. There's always a need for dance studios. They've always been around. They're just like nail studios. Yes, there's some on every single corner, but we're all not like each other. So it's going to be okay. And if it's not okay, then we close up shop. You put your ego aside, and then you find something else that you want to do. And for me, I had my backup, like my elementary education degree. There's always a need for teachers. And when we opened up our studio in 2015, a little bit of a different situation.
You want me to jump in on this one first?
Sure.
Okay. So she closes, and at this time, and this is going to just be candid. And I don't mind this being shared. Or however you guys feel. That's when I was coming out, and when I was realizing, I was falling in love with her. I wanted to be with her. I wasn't fully out, to everyone. We don't really believe you have to have a coming out party. I think that you are who you are. Yeah. And that's just our personal belief. So at the time, I was trying to figure out who I was. I knew I loved her. I knew I didn't want to be a teacher, but I promised my parents, who obviously helped me get through college, that I would get my degree. In the midst of this, they were having a hard time with me coming out as well, too. And there was a lot there, personally. And I think I looked at her, I said, about the dance studios, and I said, what if
She's like, what if it doesn't work?
What if it doesn't work? What are we going to do? Because at the time I was 22. I was young.
She was still finishing
finishing school. It was my senior year in college. And she's
So
like,
there's this like personal relationship that's developing and a potential professional relationship.
correct.
That's what you're.
Yeah,
Okay.
our personal relationship.
But
developed
personal, I knew that
a
we
year
were
before.
Yeah. And I knew that it was going to be fine. But going into business with your girlfriend,
Sure.
and then
Sure.
she's leaving her
Right.
other business. There was just like a lot.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to all right, I'm gay. No one really knows. My parents know, and it's not really accepted. And family means everything to me. And I'm come from a really big Italian family,
Yeah.
so that support meant a lot. And I said to her, "What if this doesn't work?" And she goes, "It's gonna work. There's nail salons. There's always a need for a dance studio. It's like the same thing."
It's like parents always want to put their kids places. It's gonna be fine.
So in my head, and when she said that, I took a breath and I said, well, there's no option to fail, because I'm not telling my parents I was wrong. I signed this lease without my parents knowing. She knew, I knew, our lawyer knew, and her mom knew, and that was it. And a few weeks later, my dad called me. He was a cop in the town that we lived in. He goes, "Are you opening up a dance studio?" And it was like the first time I had courage, like that. I had that ballsy feeling of like, yeah, I did. And he was like, some Italian and mad. And he's like, "Are you fucking crazy?" I'm sorry. He's like, "Are you fucking crazy? Like, do you have liability insurance?" I had no idea what he's talking about. I'm like, "Yep, I have."
I'm gonna figure it out.
And
as
he
I
was
go through
so
it.
mad at me. And I knew he wasn't disappointed. He was mad because he was on part of the process. But it was the moment I was the most proud of myself because I did what I wanted to do. I was dating who I wanted to date. And I think that's really what catapulted me into opening up the studio now. I was 23 at the time.
But I think when you love, for us, we loved each other. But I also think when you love what you do so much, you will never fail at it. And you will, you pivot.
There's moments that you're like, how am I going to pay my, you guys
COVID,
know, like,
I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like,
we're eating ramen.
Zoom.
Yeah, we're eating ramen soup. It's not even good for you as much as we ate it, and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And
we were happy
and
you're
hungry,
still doing what you love to do. And everyone always asks us, like, how are you guys, so successful in such a short amount of time? And there's so many dance studios all over the place. And I was like, because I'm not claiming that I'm the best ever, but I will outwork everyone in this room.
And we double team. There's two of us, and she'll stay up till 4 a.m. And I'm not gonna lie, at like 1, I'm like, I have to go to bed, or like I'm not gonna function. Like I'm an 8-hour sleeper. But when I tell you, we will outwork anybody. Like if you tell us we can't, we'll figure out how we can. And I think that drove us to be where we are today. But that courage of people telling us we can't, or we can't be together because we're two females, or we're too femme, or we can't open up a dance studio, or they don't want us to open up a dance studio. Like for some reason we took that and we said, well, we're going to do it. And that was the courage and the fuel that we had for each other.
To give you like another wrench, which this could be a totally another podcast. I owned my prior business with my ex-partner.
Oh, okay.
So I had to I was leaving a relationship that was very, very public. Ashley was my best friend for 2 years before we started dating. Okay. So like now that relationship switched. And then I was opening up a new dance studio, and my ex-partner is still in business a town over. So now you have all of this commotion, but whatever it is that makes you happy and fuels your passion, like that's all that matters. And that's, I really think, why.
And when we had nothing, and not that, we have a lot, but when I mean like we had nothing, that's what drove us. That like that dream, that drive, that like, whatever, we're happy. Let's do it together. We're together. We get to work every single day together. Now we have a daughter. She gets to come to the studio whenever she wants. Like we don't have to have babysitters all the time. Like we have so much freedom because of the happiness we have and the dream that we pursued.
That's like the most amazing story.
That was awesome.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
That's what it's all about. Everything you just said is what it's all about. And then I just want to make a few comments and maybe ask a couple questions. Like, so I think like anybody who's listening or watching, one thing when I talk to people like you who are very successful and have unique stories, there's like, I have such a, like, I'm very fortunate. I get to meet people like you, and then I can like download, and then I'm like, okay, what are these like really awesome people have? And then I filter it, right? And then I'm like, oh, here's a bucket that I see all the time, and then whatever. And what I've learned is there's like, in my mind, like literally it's almost like a formula. There's like two levels of things that have to happen, I feel, for people to accomplish what you accomplish. One is the right perspective. And what I mean by that is like, if I play back to you what you just said, everything you smiled at and looked at as an opportunity, the average person looks at it as, well, that sucks, I gotta stop. Like, oh, a lease. I've never signed a lease. What's a lease? Blah, 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 blah. You're like, oh, here's something cool new that I can learn. There's going to be some shit with it, but I'm going to learn and grow from it.
Yeah, it was a bad lease, but we learned from it.
But that doesn't paralyze you.
No,
Stop,
we
right?
just, yeah.
Or I've never gone into, or I'm leaving a business partner. Having a partner didn't work in business, so why should I? Versus, no, there were some good things. Now I learned, I'm stronger, so let me have a partner I trust. Or how many times people tell you don't go into business with family, and as a relationship you're basically family, right? Like even though at that time maybe you weren't as close as you are now, but you're together.
Yeah,
so,
it was scary.
So there's a person, don't mix business, whatever it is.
Yeah, with pleasure.
Yeah. And my brother's my partner. So and people always say don't mix, and I've had always the opposite. Like I like Mo's like our brother. Like a lot of the guys and girls we work with are family. And,
same.
And I mean straight up like. I mean, it's that's how it is, and I see only the benefit from it.
Same.
But a lot of people are like, well, if you work with family, then there's this and that, and that's true, and that's why you got to like make sure you don't work with all your family. You work with the right family, right?
And just have open communication.
Well, yeah, those
Also,
are the right folks.
we have a board of directors too, what we put in place because we were like, in case we break up and we don't get married, like we have her mom, my dad, and then a neutral party. So
So the second level, so one level is I think the right perspective is how you look at things that most people say, well, that's a reason not to, and you're able to see a path. And I don't know how better to explain that. Like that's like we in our world, people are like, why? How could you like just let people text you through the app? Like how could you? And all I ever tell people is I'm like, even doctors we take care of are like, dude, how do you do it? How many times we have this conversation? And I tell them, I'm like, and I'll tell the doctor whose kid I take care of, I'm like, buddy, true or false, you're up at 3 a.m. with an answering service. He's like, yeah. I'm like, that sucks.
Same thing. Yeah.
That's worse.
Yeah.
I spent 10 years with like a secretary interpreting a seizure at 4 a.m. that she doesn't understand, only to track the parents down. Now they're in the ER. I'm like, dude, when they text me, it's easier for me, it's easier for them. Like, so you have a different perspective on the same thing.
Yeah.
But here's where people sometimes screw up. They're like, oh, okay, so I just got to believe in myself. Cool. And then the second level is, no. There's a couple of immovable things that are table stakes. So you can do something cool, like do what you love, like where people don't have that courage, but the courage is rooted in you'll outwork anybody. You will be like honest. You're going to have, community guidelines. You're going to have a certain standard of ethics, and you're going to have a risk tolerance. And you said a bunch of really interesting things. Like you just blew over them, but I think they're really important. Like the family support, like fine, your family may have a couple of issues if you come out, but the love is there. They're not going to kick you out. Or they might have some issues with you, like signing a lease without them knowing, but they're there. You know that in your heart. Like when I know, like, okay, if I like, if I know, and my wife works with us, like if I know, we make a business mistake or whatever, nobody ever judges the other person.
Yeah,
like,
same.
Like we all know, hey, this is part of the journey, right? Like Mo, sometimes we have an idea, sometimes it works, and then we celebrate together. But nobody ever points a finger,
No.
right? Nobody's ever like, well, that was really stupid. How come you did that? Well, no, because you're not going to bat 1,000, and you want to make progress. So by definition, you got to have a couple of mistakes.
True.
Correct.
But you could only have that courage if you know somebody's got your back. And for you guys, it sounds like you both had real strong family support.
Yeah.
And then you have each other. But I think it's the perspective, but then the fundamentals you can't get away from. And at the top of the list is like, okay, I'm going to bet on myself, but I might not be the best dancer. I'm really good. I might not be the smartest person. I'm pretty smart, but you will not find somebody who outworks me.
Correct.
Right. And that's like a superpower. Like when you discover it, when you're like, listen, this person like is a little bit better than me at this, but they're not there Saturday and Sunday. They're not willing to come in and do this, that, then you're going to win. Right. Because, when you get those emails from those crazy parents or whatever, but you respond anytime they send them in, and then you walk through this, blah, 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 instead of whatever, like you said, they're going to have, that parent's going to be that parent somewhere else. But the fact that you're there all the time is why they're with you guys and why you're growing and you're successful. And they know these people are there for my kids. Like there's not office hours. If they need me, they need me. They're going to come in, they're going to come out, they're going to help out. So I think listening to that last part about your personal journey and the output professionally is not surprising. I think you guys are going to have like so much success. I think
thank you.
You have such a magical way about you and what you're doing. And I'm sure I haven't been in the studio, but I'm sure you could feel the energy if you're there with the kids.
Thank you.
And so on.
Yeah.
Thank you. We always say the kids are our client. Like they're the number one, right? The parents are number two. If our number one client isn't happy, then we're not doing our job. And some parents take that like, well, I'm the one paying the bill. And I said, you are, but you're not the one sweat, tears showing up and have to fail and learn again. So as long as our kids feel that it's a magical, safe, happy,
and honest,
honest,
I think that's important.
transparency.
And in dance studio culture, this gets lost. It gets very catty. Majority is all women or young girls. I think
and envy is normal.
Envy is normal.
But how are you handling it?
But how are you handling it? So like we are very honest coaches. So we will give a syllabus from our 7 are actually like our 5-year-olds all the way up to an 18-year-old. And like, you didn't make this team because of A, B, and C.
Well, she's talking about competitive, not
Competitively,
recreational.
Not recreational. Recreational,
Yeah, you
it's
give them
usually
feedback on what to
butterflies and
improve,
rainbows and, you know, good time for
But
an hour.
competitively, because they're investing basically
So
a Mercedes-Benz payment,
And
like
it becomes their life and it becomes
Yeah.
their passion and it's their
And you're-
lifestyle. So being very honest with the child and with the parent,
Sure.
and talking about envy, like, oh, well, how come Sally has 2 solos but Susie only has 1? Well, Sally has this, and this in skill, and she works these many days. Do you do the same?
Right.
And if not, it's okay. But if you want that, let's see how we can get you there.
sure.
And it's not degrading. You know, I think that's very important. And sometimes our honesty, parents don't like it. And, you know, because we're 2 females, we get called 1,000 other things, unfortunately. But for us, it works. And we can hold our kids accountable. And that's also why I feel like it's successful, but it's like a breath of fresh air because you're not battling with the child. The kids know. They're right.
yeah, I mean, people ask us all the time, how do you get your kids to be so team oriented? Because you can see it when they dance on stage and the chemistry on stage. And that comes from the 2 leaders at the top, and we're a good team. And then the kids see that team, and it's just a trifecta. It's just like a pyramid. So they see that we work together. We're in the studio 24/7, sweating with
we
them.
don't agree all the time.
No, we don't agree all the time.
Creatively, it's very hard to work with your best friend, your partner, or family on a creative aspect, and then on an administrative.
Well, because your brain's
aspect.
working on 2 different creative wavelengths. You know, we're hearing the music different in our ear. It's just your body makeup,
It's
right?
super subjective.
We're fighting over beats, though. I'm saying no. I'm hearing a 5 and 6, and she's like, "There's no end in there. Like, I don't know what you're hearing."
And I would like to point out that my ear is usually always
Oh,
great.
her ear is the best ear, and I'm usually wrong. But sometimes it's fun to
But
banter.
it's good for the kids because
But they see how we
that.
work through it together,
sure,
right?
sure.
So then when the kids have an issue and we sit them down, there's never a time they lie to us. They'll say, yeah, I did say that about Susie. And I'm like, well, why? And she's like, because honestly, I'm a little jealous that she has that and I don't. And I said, all right, well, it's okay to feel like that. But how do you think that made her feel? And, you know, you get them to be honest and talk it through. And then that's why when they're on stage, those facials they're making and that chemistry you're feeling in the audience, that you don't know anything about dance, but you're feeling happiness or sadness, it's real because their communication and their vibe every single day in the studio is real.
Which is important because dance is a super
individual-based sport.
Especially with social media nowadays. You see, you know, Sally, who's like Miss Teen USA, all these check marks of their resume. On
Well,
social
because
media.
they put in their Instagram, you know, and it's, you know, it's a catch-22. You want them to have a resume. You're like 7-year-old a resume. I don't know. Mila's not 7 yet. So when she's 7, I guess we'll cross that bridge. But you want them to have a resume, or I should say a dance portfolio, right? So that way agencies, colleges, they have something to look at. But at what cost? Because if your kid's bio, you know, in your Instagram, it doesn't have a triple crown and world champion, and your kid just has their name and their age, how is that making your child feel right now? And, you know, you can't, when parents ask us, like, should I start her on Instagram? And I'm like, I'm honest, you know.
Like, if you're going to do it, you run it. She does
Do not
get
let her.
access to that
Do
until
not even
she's
let her
13.
see that she has it, because she's 8 years old. What it can do to their confidence of like, well, I'm already behind the 8 ball because she's 9. I have no crowns.
And she's doing 5 spins or 5 turns, and I'm only doing 1 right now, and it devalues all of their hard work. It's a tough thing to be in.
It's a tough industry to be in.
But
I feel like it's all sports though. Like
Oh
at
yeah.
that age.
Yeah.
So like if you think, I don't know if basketball players do it, if they write their stats in their
Like
their
number 1
their
kid in his
bio.
sister.
Oh, yeah.
But
Dean
like
comes up to me all the time. He's like, Mikey Williams, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, who? I'm like waiting for him to say an NBA player. He's like, he's an 8th grader. I'm like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah. So I have this girl, she's actually a client of yours too. I won't say her name on here. Fantastic. She's in her teens. And I want her to start posting more on her Instagram because she has 1 more year and then she goes to college. So she's going to get recruited. She'll get to go to any D1, D1A school she chooses if she continues to work hard. so I say to her, why aren't you posting more? You need more content now because they're going to start looking at your Instagram. She's like, because it's not perfect. It doesn't look like this one. I said, it's not about perfection. It's about showing them that you're trying and showing up every single day and like you're just growing. So even my teens struggle with it. It's not just like the 8-year-olds.
Yeah, but going back to like being dance as an individual sport, when we first started the business, I would always say to her, I'm like, how come cheer, because cheer and dance, it's similar.
Yeah.
How come cheer, they have such a good team atmosphere?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, because in order to do stunts, you need those 4 players. So
True.
Yeah.
if player number 2 doesn't come to practice that day,
You can't stunt.
you can't stunt. That players 1, 3, and 4 are just sitting there watching.
And you
So-
don't want to let your stunt group down.
So I was like, that's genius. So we took this individualized sport or should I say art, and we made it a sport. And now we
Right,
purposely
right,
do
right.
things in rehearsals or in trainings
Where they need each other.
Yes.
other. And we'll take, so for us, we do something
That's
called
awesome.
SDL Olympics, and we do it a few times throughout the year. And if you're on our competitive teams, it's kind of like Harry Potter and like the house, like Hogwarts and
No. Oh my God.
Gryffindor or whatever.
Gryffindor, Slytherin. Like,
So what
You
we
can explain that to me later.
yeah. So
No.
what-
Diana,
you guys
gotta
don't know
step up.
Harry Potter?
I,
No, I know it
I know Harry
exists.
Potter.
Okay, so there's different
Like
houses.
some nerd on a book, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's more than a nerd. He's the man.
Ashley's
Okay,
gonna go
okay,
home.
I'm
maybe,
just
maybe.
kidding.
Jack could probably school you about it.
So wait, they have different houses, and they all year like basically
Battle for the cup.
for like the Hogwarts Cup. We took that and spun it, and we do the Source Cup. So, and then we take kids from all of our teams. So the senior team, the teen team, mini team, and we mix them up
That's
because
the
we
most
didn't
important.
want there to be a hierarchy at our studio that, well, I'm on the teen team, so I'm better than you because you're a mini. So we make them play these games, and we basically just like mix them all up, and now
Or-
they're on houses.
We also do it with personalities. So we take like the strongest personality and put them maybe
Quietest.
with the quietest kid.
Right, right, right.
So that way, and if you feel free to go on our Instagram and look through the SDL Olympics, you will hysterically laugh because you see a different side, but it brings out their confidence. It brings out their team building skills, and that's why when we hit that stage, the choreography is the easy part,
Right,
but
right.
why you can't stop watching it.
It's the chemistry.
It's the chemistry on the kids. From the 7-year-olds, what 7-year-olds can relate to an 18-year-old. It's
Right,
what
right,
you
right.
do within your classrooms. At least that we can be in control of.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a
Thank
beautiful
you.
thing.
Thank you.
That's great.
I have nothing to add.
Well, this was a great convo.
Guys, thank you for
I
having us.
actually have one question.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is your favorite song that you guys dance to
question.
or have your girls dance to or guys?
That's a hard one because music is ever evolving and changing. So like every few weeks there's like new stuff that comes out.
And I hate like being a hip hop choreographer
Oh my God.
mainly. I actually hate where the hip hop music has gone to.
Okay.
So honestly, when we're not dancing, we prefer country music because
Oh,
it
wow.
has nothing to do with work.
Okay.
We go to Beyonce and we're sitting there, we're like, oh my God, look at that formation. Oh my God, do you hear this music? Country, it's just.
Do you go to concerts?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my love language.
That's like,
So like you're going to a lot of concerts.
not
we
this
haven't because of the
summer.
baby now. It's
Okay.
a little different.
It's a little different, but we used to go to religious concerts for OAR.
Okay.
Kind of like Hootie and the Blowfish mixed with
Like Bruce Springsteen vibe and
Dave Matthews.
Dave
Band.
Matthews.
Like,
Okay.
So good times, but we haven't gotten some time. But I also used to play the drums when I was a kid.
Okay, okay.
So
she loves like
I love
instruments.
it. It's actually like one of the things I want to get back into.
Okay.
But I would say my favorite song right now, Courtney actually just choreographed to it. It's Kaylani's new song, After Hours. I love the vibe. She, if
Did you
you
guys
go,
do a choreograph?
yeah, it's on our Instagram.
To Not Like Us.
No, we didn't do that.
No.
No, I
It's a good
can't.
beat.
Wait,
It's a great
they're not
beat.
like who
Yeah.
did that?
Yeah, Kendrick Lamar.
Did Memphis do that?
Oh no, I did it.
Oh yeah, you did it at auditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it. We did it.
I'm really terrible with lyrics, by the way.
Yeah.
But I can hear music.
Monster on the
like-
beat.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just did it for our auditions. That's a hard song to choreograph
Yeah.
too, by the way.
There's a lot of music in that
Because
song.
the beat is the bass is one thing,
Yeah.
and then you have those like
The melody,
over
yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah.
and then the lyrics sometimes don't even go with that.
Yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
it like is crazy.
It's the way your ear too is
you
layered.
have to like unlayer.
You have to unlayer your ear.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a weird feeling, but once you can do it, it's cool. She showed me how to do it because my ear was really bad
How do
until I
you
met
unlayer
her.
your ear?
Huh?
How you unlayer?
Doctor, how do
When-
you unlayer your ears?
I actually understand I love music. I understand.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's almost
I
like your
could
ear
never-
like
Like,
goes
like
like,
listening
this.
to all the beats and everything.
So you,
It's
Like
every
play
beat.
every like the bass, the drum.
yes,
Okay.
The snare.
play the same
I got you,
track,
yeah.
and you kind of like hear it, and then you like unlayer it. So you try to like tunnel ear, only one layer, and then you go to the next layer, and then you go to the next layer, and then the lyrics are always probably like that top layer, and that's how you can kind of.
And once you know how to do it, listening to the radio will never be the same.
Yeah.
It is. We can't
That's
even
why
just
I
listen to
think
music
I-
anymore.
Also, now I understand like why you have such a good like working relationship. Like the key to any successful relationship is unlayering. Like
Oh my God.
you have to be able to like if you actually listen to everything somebody said to you and took it the way you wouldn't have any
Problems.
like it's like you just you're like didn't mean it that way. This is what kind of is happening. Here's bad day, didn't have breakfast, and this is really what they're saying, and you could extract that. And so the concept of like layering and like unbundling and whatever, I think that's important to take even like with you in life is, you know, there's such a huge disconnect between often what someone says and what someone hears.
Yeah.
Right? The communication aspect. And so this, what you're talking about is the art of communication.
Yeah.
It's like it's like an element of that. So, but this was incredible.
Excellent.
Guys,
It was-
thank
it
you.
So
was-
we're gonna have well, maybe we'll bring Yad out, or maybe we'll do it like come by for Sunday or something. We'll do
Yeah.
it, like at Yad's house, play basketball. We'll tape.
I should bring my my 2009 alumni team.
Bring it.
We were undefeated.
Bring it.
All right.
Bring it.
I gotta get
but
Rhonda.
this was fun.
This was great, guys.
was
Thank you
awesome.
We
so much.
appreciate you guys making the time. and
Oh my
coming out.
God.
Thank
This was
you.
amazing. I
Thank
think
you.
a lot of people are going to find this useful. So.
Very.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you
thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank
Thanks.
you for having us.